The autumn wind whips around us as we stand at Clara's graveside. My granddaughter Ivy's small hand trembles in mine, her grip tightening as the minister speaks words that blur together like watercolors in rain. I can barely look at the polished mahogany coffin, knowing my daughter lies within. "Grandma," Ivy whispers, tugging at my sleeve. "Mommy's trying to tell you something." My heart catches. I glance down at her serious little face, those eyes so much like Clara's. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" She keeps pointing to her tummy. She says it's important. Ivy's voice carries that matter-of-fact tone children use when stating the obvious. Across the grave, Evan, my son-in-law, stares at us, his expression unreadable behind designer sunglasses. He's dressed impeccably in a tailored black suit, every hair in place. Something about his composure makes my skin crawl. "Show, Ivy," he says. "This isn't the time for games." I pull Ivy closer, shielding her from his sharp tone. "She's 5, Evan. Let her grieve how she needs to." The service continues, but Ivy's words echo in my mind. Clara had been in perfect health before her sudden collapse. The doctors called it heart failure, but something about that never sat right with me. After the final prayers, mourners drift away like fallen leaves. Renee, Clara's best friend, approaches me with red-rimmed eyes. "Lydia, She glances at Evan, who's speaking with the minister. "Can we talk later?" Before I can respond, Evan appears at her elbow. "Renee, thanks for coming. I'm sure you understand we need family time now." The way Renee flinches at his touch doesn't escape my notice. She hurries away, leaving me with more questions than answers. "Mother," Evan says, his voice honey smooth, "I've arranged for Ivy to stay with my parents tonight. Give you some time to rest." "No." Ivy's cry startles us both. She wraps her arms around my legs. "I want to stay with Grandma." I meet Evan's gaze. "She can stay with me. It's no trouble." His jaw tightens for a fraction of a second before he forces a smile. "If you're sure, I'll have her things sent over." That evening, as I tuck Ivy into Clara's old bed, she grabs my hand. "Grandma, Mommy's still trying to tell you about her tummy. She says you need to look." "Look at what, sweetheart?" "At her. Before they put her in the ground forever." Ivy's eyes fill with tears. She says it's the only way you'll know. A chill runs through me. Know what? That Daddy's a bad man. I sit heavily on the edge of the bed, my mind racing. Clara's body is at Marshall's funeral home, waiting for tomorrow's burial. I've known Thomas Marshall for 30 years. He owes me a favor from when his daughter needed help with college applications. "Try to sleep, love," I whisper, kissing Ivy's forehead. "Everything will be all right." But as I close her door, I'm already reaching for my phone. Thomas answers on the second ring. "Lydia? I was just thinking about you." "Thomas, I need to see her. One last time." A pause. "The viewing's over, Lydia. We're prepping for tomorrow's." "Please." My voice cracks. "I'm calling in that favor." Another pause, longer this time. "Come now. Use the back door." I grab my keys, my heart pounding. Clara always said Ivy had a gift for seeing things others couldn't. If my granddaughter is right, if there's something about Clara's death we've all missed, I need to know. And God help Evan if he's involved. The bruise on Clara's stomach haunts me as I stand in her bedroom the next morning. It wasn't natural, a strange pattern of dark purple spots, like a constellation of stars. Thomas had gone pale when he saw it, mumbling something about calling the medical examiner. Ivy sleeps down the hall while I search Clara's room, my fingers trailing over her belongings. Everything looks perfect, untouched, too perfect. Evan must have been here already. The bottom dresser drawer sticks slightly when I pull it. Something catches my eye, a slight gap in the wood at the back. I reach in, feeling around until my fingers brush against leather. A small journal, wedged into a hidden space. My hands shake as I open it. Clara's familiar handwriting fills the pages, but these aren't the words of the daughter I thought I knew. April 15th, he threw my phone against the wall today. Said I was texting too much with Mom. "Always running to Mommy," he said. I should have seen this coming. The way he isolated me from friends, controlled the money. God, I was so stupid. The floor seems to tilt beneath me. I sink onto Clara's bed, continuing to read. June 3rd. The bruises are getting harder to hide. Evan knows exactly where to hit, so no one will see. He's so careful about his image. Everyone thinks he's perfect, successful businessman, devoted husband and father. If they only knew. A soft knock at the door makes me jump. Mrs. Hawthorne. It's Marie, Evan's housekeeper. I quickly tuck the journal into my sweater. Yes. She peers in, wringing her hands. Mr. Mercer called. He's coming to collect Miss Ivy in an hour. Thank you, Marie. I notice her hesitation. Is there something else? She glances over her shoulder, lowering her voice. The night before, Miss Clara, before it happened, I heard them fighting. She said something about proof, about going public. He was so angry. My throat tightens. Did you tell the police? Mr. Mercer said they ruled it natural causes. Said there was no need to trouble anyone. Her eyes dart away. I should go. I've said too much. After she leaves, I flip through the journal's final entries. The last one stops mid-sentence, dated 3 days before Clara's death. I finally have what I need. The bank statements prove everything. Once Mom sees these, she'll understand why I have to take Ivy and bank statements. My heart pounds as I search the room again, but find nothing. Evan must have them. Ivy appears in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Grandma, Daddy's here. I turn to see Evan behind her, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Mother, I hope you don't mind. I thought Ivy might want to spend some time at home. Actually, I say, matching his tone, I promised to take her to the park today. Clara's favorite spot. Another time, perhaps. He steps forward, placing his hands on Ivy's shoulders. Come along, sweetheart. Marie packed your things. Ivy looks at me, her lower lip trembling. But Mommy says, Ivy. Evan's voice carries a warning. What did we discuss about making up stories? I move between them. She can stay if she wants to. I'm her father. His mask slips for just a moment, showing something cold beneath. And I think it's time we all stopped indulging these fantasies. Clara's gone. The sooner Ivy accepts that, the better. He leads her away before I can respond. Through the window, I watch them drive off, the journal burning against my ribs where I've hidden it. I reach for my phone, scrolling to Renee's number. The text she sent at the funeral keeps replaying in my mind. We need to talk. Not on the phone. My fingers hover over the keypad. Whatever Clara found in those bank statements, it was enough to get her killed. And now Ivy's alone with him. I start typing. Meet me in an hour. Bring everything you know about Clara and Evan. Everything. Renee's hands won't stop shaking as she pours her third cup of coffee. We're tucked away in a corner booth at Sal's diner, far from the windows. She keeps glancing at the door like she expects someone to burst in. Clara tried to tell you, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. That dinner party last Christmas? When she kept asking about your old cases from the library's legal section? The memory hits me like a punch. Clara, unusually quiet that night, asking about cases where spouses had disappeared. I'd thought she was researching for a true crime novel. She was planning her escape, wasn't she? Renee nods, pulling something from her purse, a small flash drive. She gave me this 3 days before it happened. Said if anything happened to her, I should give it to you. My fingers close around the drive. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Evan came to see me the day after she died. Renee's voice cracks. He knew about the affair I had last year. Said he'd tell my husband if I didn't keep quiet. But that's not why I'm here now. She leans forward. Clara was convinced he was poisoning her. The coffee turns to acid in my stomach. What? Small doses, she said, making her sick enough to need him. She started testing her food, keeping samples. It's all documented on that drive, along with the bank record she found. A commotion near the entrance makes Renee jump. It's just a waiter dropping plates, but her fear is contagious. There's more, she continues. The night before she died, Clara called me. Said she'd found proof that Evan's company was laundering money. Millions of dollars. She was going to expose everything. My phone buzzes, a text from Evan. Ivy's asking for you. Come for dinner tonight. He's invited me to dinner. I tell Renee. The color drains from her face. Don't eat anything he gives you.
Clara made that mistake.
She thought she could confront him, make him confess. She didn't know he'd figured out she was gathering evidence. I have to go, I say. Ivy needs me. Lydia, wait. Renee grabs my arm. There's something else. The night Clara died, she called me again. She was frantic, saying she'd found something in Evan's study, something about other women. She said. Renee swallows hard. She said she wasn't his first. The world tilts sideways. I steady myself against the table, remembering the strange bruise pattern on Clara's stomach. How many others had similar marks? I'll need copies of everything, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. And Renee? Get somewhere safe. She shakes her head. I can't leave.
He'll know I talked.
Then stay with me. We'll protect each other. My phone buzzes again. Evan, Ivy's made your favorite dessert. Don't disappoint her. I text back, looking forward to it. Standing to leave, I see a familiar face through the diner window, Detective Grant, watching from his parked car. He nods slightly, letting me know he's got eyes on us. One more thing, Renee says as I turn to go. Clara told me if anything happened to her, to tell you to look behind the loose brick in the garden wall, the one near her old reading spot. I pause. What's there? She never said, but whatever it is, she was willing to die to protect it. My phone buzzes a third time. A picture message from Evan, Ivy in the kitchen, wearing an apron, smiling that same forced smile I'd seen at the funeral. The caption reads, "We're both dying to see you." I clutch the flash drive tighter, feeling its edges dig into my palm. Whatever's behind that brick, whatever's on this drive, I have to stay alive long enough to find it. For Clara, for Ivy, for all the others who couldn't fight back. Detective Grant studies the bruised photos spread across his desk, his expression darkening with each one. These patterns, he says, tapping the image from the funeral home. They're consistent with arsenic poisoning. The discoloration, the clustering, I've seen it before. I place Clara's diary beside the photos. There's more. He flips through the pages, his jaw tightening. When he reaches the final entry, he looks up. You realize what this means? If Evan was laundering money through his company. Clara wasn't his first victim. I finish. Renee mentioned others. Grant pulls up something on his computer, turning the screen toward me. 3 obituaries. Young women, all with successful husbands, all dead from natural causes in the past decade. My stomach lurches when I see their photos. They could be Clara's sisters. Evan Mercer worked with all their husbands, Grant says. Different names back then, but the same pattern. The companies would fold shortly after the wives died. Insurance payments, corporate assets, all disappeared. A knock at the door makes us both jump. Officer Chin steps in, looking grave. Sir, we've got a problem. The evidence from the Hawthorne case, it's gone. What do you mean, gone? Someone accessed the evidence room last night. Security cameras were disabled. All we found was this. She holds up an evidence bag containing a single playing card, the Queen of Hearts, with a crude X drawn across the face. Grant's chair scrapes back. Get me the duty roster now. My phone buzzes. A text from Renee. Someone broke in. They know. Getting out of town. Before I can respond, another message appears from Evan. Found something interesting in Clara's old things. Come by the house. Ivy misses you. He knows, I say, showing Grant the message. He's using Ivy to draw me in. We can bring him in for questioning. On what grounds? The evidence is gone. I stand, gathering Clara's diary. But I know where we might find more. The garden wall at Clara's reading spot. There's something hidden there. Mrs. Hawthorne. Grant's voice stops me at the door. Don't go to that house. Let us handle this. My granddaughter is there. And if something happens to you, who will protect her then? I think of Samuel, my late husband, how he always said patience was the deadliest weapon. I'll be careful, but I need you to do something for me. 20 minutes later, I'm parked outside Clara's old house, watching Evan through the kitchen window. He's making dinner, moving with that precise control that once seemed elegant but now looks mechanical. Ivy sits at the counter, coloring, but her eyes keep drifting to the window.
My phone buzzes one last time.
Grant. In position. Security footage recovered. You were right about the evidence room, inside job. Officer Chen's missing. The pieces click into place.
Chen.
The playing card. The other wives. I dial Evan's number, watching him answer through the window. Mother, he says smoothly. Coming to join us? Actually, I was wondering if you knew Officer Chen's wife. Laura Chen? She died 3 years ago. Natural causes, just like Clara. A slight pause. Through the window, I see his free hand clench. I'm not sure I follow.
No.
What about Rebecca Torres?
Katrine Ors.
All dead within months of their husbands doing business with you. All with the same bruise pattern Clara had. You should come inside, he says, his voice dropping. Ivy's been asking for you. We wouldn't want to disappoint her, would we? I watch him set down the phone and add something to one of the dinner plates. My hand touches Clara's diary in my pocket, feeling its weight like a shield. No, I whisper. We wouldn't want that at all. The garden wall looms before me in the growing dusk, its weathered bricks holding secrets I'm not sure I want to uncover. Evan and Ivy are still visible through the kitchen window, but I keep to the shadows, counting bricks from the corner where Clara used to read. 3 up for a cross, I whisper, remembering Renee's instructions. The brick shifts easily, revealing a small metal box wedged deep in the wall. My fingers brush something cold. A USB drive, similar to the one Renee gave me, and a ring I recognize instantly. Clara's grandmother's ring, the one Evan claimed she'd lost months ago. A note falls from the box, Clara's handwriting hurried but clear. Mom, if you're reading this, check the footage from my necklace camera. The password is Ivy's birthday. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner. He's watching everything. My phone vibrates. Detective Grant. Officer Chen found.
Dead.
Same bruise pattern. Get out now. Movement catches my eye. Through the window, I see Evan leading Ivy upstairs, his hand gripping her shoulder too tightly. She looks back, and for a moment, our eyes meet through the glass. Grandma. Her voice carries faintly through the window. Mommy says don't drink the tea. Evan's head snaps toward the window. I duck behind a bush, heart pounding, as his silhouette appears at the glass. The back door creaks open. Mother? His footsteps crunch on the gravel path. I know you're out here. Let's talk about this like adults. I clutch the box to my chest, weighing my options. The gate is 15 feet away, but he's between me and my car. You know, he continues closer now. Clara had this same habit of sneaking around. Never could trust her to stay where she belonged. A bitter laugh. She thought that camera necklace was so clever. Didn't realize I'd known about it for weeks. My phone buzzes again. Grant. 2 minutes out. Keep him talking. I step out from behind the bush. Did you make her tea too, Evan? He smiles, that perfect, practiced smile that must have charmed so many women before Clara. You should come inside. It's getting cold, and I've prepared something special. Like you prepared for Officer Chen? Or the others?
Ah.
He stops, head tilting. You've been busy, but you don't have the whole picture. The company's the money. It's bigger than you realize. Clara didn't understand either. She thought exposing everything would make her a hero. Where's Ivy? Safe. Upstairs. Where she'll stay, unless. He takes another step forward. We could make this easy. A quiet family dinner. A tragic accident. Grandmother and granddaughter. Overcome by grief, perhaps. Distant sirens pierce the evening air. Evan's smile falters for just a moment. You're surrounded, I say, praying it's true. It's over. He laughs, pulling something from his pocket. Clara's camera necklace. Nothing's over until I say it is. You know what's fascinating about digital evidence? How easily it can disappear. The sirens grow louder. Evan's eyes dart to the house, then back to me. Something shifts in his expression. that perfect mask cracking to reveal something desperate underneath. "Last chance," he says softly. "Come inside, or I promise you'll never see Ivy again." Through the upstairs window, I catch a glimpse of movement. Ivy's small face pressed against the glass, her hand raised in a familiar gesture. She points to her stomach, just like she did at the funeral. The pieces click together. Clara's last message wasn't about her own stomach. It was about Evan's secret room in the basement, the one she'd mentioned in her diary. The one where he kept his evidence, his trophies. I take a step toward the house. "You're right, Evan. Let's have that tea." The basement door creaks open, revealing concrete steps descending into darkness. Evan's hand rests on my shoulder, steering me forward while sirens wail in the distance. Upstairs, Ivy's footsteps pace across the floorboards, our own private metronome counting down the minutes. "You should have left it alone," Evan says, flicking on a light that illuminates rows of filing cabinets. Clara couldn't leave it alone either. My fingers brush against the USB drive in my pocket. How many others? Enough to build an empire. He moves to a cabinet, pulling out a drawer. Every wife brought something valuable: connections, insurance policies, corporate assets. "Clara." He smiles that perfect smile. "Clara brought you." "Me?" "A retired librarian with a reputation for solving cold cases. The perfect person to expose everything, if anyone would believe you." He removes a folder, spreading photos across a metal desk. Who would trust the grieving mother-in-law? The photos show women, dozens of them, each one bearing that same strange bruise pattern. Each one smiling beside Evan in different guises, different hair, different names, but always that same practiced charm. Officer Chen was getting close, he continues. Like Clara, she thought she could save everyone. Such a waste. Footsteps thunder overhead. Police entering the house. Evan's expression doesn't change as he pulls out a gun. "Sit," he says, gesturing to a chair. "We're going to wait for Detective Grant. He'll want to see this." "See what?" "Your suicide note, of course. How the guilt of falsely accusing your son-in-law drove you to desperate measures." He slides a paper across the desk. "You'll be found with evidence proving you tampered with Clara's medication, driven mad by grief." Heavy footsteps approach the basement door. Evan positions himself behind me, gun pressed to my ribs. "One word," he whispers, "and Ivy has an accident before anyone reaches her." The door opens. Detective Grant appears, weapon drawn. "Mrs. Hawthorne." "We're down here," Evan calls, his voice trembling with fake concern. "Something's wrong. She's talking about Clara, about hurting herself." I meet Grant's eyes as he descends, seeing the question there. One wrong move, and Ivy. My hand touches Clara's ring in my pocket, its edge sharp against my finger. "Show him," Evan commands. "Show him what you found." Slowly, I reach into my pocket, the USB drive and ring clatter onto the desk. "Evidence," I say quietly, "of a grieving woman's obsession?" Evan's grip loosens slightly. "Exactly. We tried to help her, detective, but after Clara? I think of Samuel, my late husband, teaching me self-defense after retirement. The smallest weakness, he'd said, can become your greatest strength." "I'm sorry," I whisper. "What was that?" Evan leans closer. "I'm sorry, Clara." In one motion, I drive my elbow back while twisting away. The gun fires, the bullet striking the filing cabinet as Grant tackles Evan. More officers pour down the stairs as they struggle. I lunge for the desk, grabbing the USB drive and photos, but Evan breaks free. His hand catches my ankle, pulling me down. My head strikes the concrete. Through blurring vision, I see him reaching for the gun again. Grant shouts a warning. Another shot rings out. When my eyes refocus, Evan lies motionless, blood spreading across his pristine shirt. Above us, Ivy screams. "Grandma!" I try to stand, but the room spins. The last thing I see is Grant reaching for his radio. "Officer down. We need medical, now." Then darkness takes me, and Clara's voice whispers in my mind. "Not yet, Mom. Ivy still needs you." The hospital room blurs into focus as I wake, the steady beep of monitors mixing with Ivy's quiet humming. She sits beside my bed, coloring, while Detective Grant stands at the window. "Welcome back," he says. "You've been out for 2 days." My throat feels like sandpaper. "Evan."
Alive.
"Surgery went well." Grant moves closer, lowering his voice. "The evidence from the basement. It's bigger than we imagined. Dozens of victims across 3 states. Different names, different companies, but always the same pattern." "And Officer Chin?" "Found her phone. She'd been building a case for months. That's why she infiltrated the evidence room. She knew someone in the department was working with Evan." Ivy looks up from her coloring. "Mommy says he's awake now." Grant and I exchange glances. Down the hall, a door slams, followed by shouting and running feet. "Stay with her," I say, pulling myself up despite the room spinning. "Mrs. Hawthorne. He owes me the truth. All of it." I find Evan's room easily. It's the one with 2 officers posted outside. They recognize me, stepping aside after a nod from Grant, who's followed me out. Evan lies handcuffed to the bed, his perfect appearance finally cracked. Our eyes meet, and for the first time, I see something real in them. Fear. "Come to finish the job?" His voice is hoarse.
No.
"I came to understand." "Understand what?" "How I built an empire. How I protected my investments. How you could look Clara in the eyes every day, knowing what you planned to do." He laughs, the sound brittle. "Clara was different. She wasn't supposed to." His facade cracks further. "She looked at me like I was worth saving. Nobody had ever. But you killed her anyway." "I had to. She found the records, all of them. The other wives, the shell companies, everything. She said she could help me come clean, start over." His hands clench. "Nobody starts over. You just find new masks to wear." Footsteps approach. Ivy, breaking away from Grant. She runs to the bed, her small face fierce. "Mommy wants you to know something," she says to Evan. His composure shatters completely. "Ivy, please." She says the others are waiting for you. All of them. They're not going to let you hide anymore. The monitors begin beeping faster. Evan's eyes dart around the room, seeing something we can't. "No," he whispers.
You're dead.
"You're all dead." Medical staff rush in as he thrashes against the handcuffs. I pull Ivy back, watching his perfect mask finally fall away completely. "They're here," he screams. "Make them stop looking at me." Later, in the hallway, Grant tells me Evan signed a full confession. "He'll never get out," he says. The DA's pushing for maximum sentences on all counts. But I'm watching Ivy, who's resumed her coloring as if nothing happened. "What did you really see in there, sweetheart?" She looks up, Clara's eyes staring back at me from her small face. "Just Mommy and the others. They needed him to see them one last time. And now they can rest." She holds up her drawing, a garden full of women, all smiling, all free. "Mommy says we can go home now. She's not angry anymore." I touch the bruise on my temple, thinking of all the wounds that don't leave visible marks. Some scars heal clean, while others transform us into something stronger. "Yes," I say, taking her hand. "Let's go home." Behind us, Evan's screams fade into whispers, then silence. Whatever he sees now, he'll see forever. Some justice comes from courts and confessions, but other kinds arrive on their own, carried by the whispers of those we thought were gone. 1 year later, I stand in Clara's garden, watching Ivy plant sunflowers. The same wall that once held dark secrets now supports climbing roses, their thorny stems covering old wounds. The Clara Hawthorne Foundation received another donation, Renee says, joining me with coffee mugs. She's different now, stronger, like steel forged in fire. 3 more women came forward after the trial. They're safe now. I nod, thinking of the foundation we built from Evan's seized assets. Clara would have liked that, using his money to save others. Ivy looks up from her planting, dirt smudged across her cheek. "Mommy says the flowers will bloom extra bright this year." Detective Grant's car pulls into the driveway, and he approaches with a familiar manila envelope. "The last of the paperwork," he says. Evan's appeal was denied. He'll never see daylight again. How is he? I ask, not sure why I care. Still claiming he sees them. All of them. The prison psychiatrist says he spends his days apologizing to empty chairs. Ivy stands, brushing dirt from her knees. They don't sit in chairs anymore, silly. They dance in the garden. We all fall silent, watching her skip toward the house. Sometimes I wonder if she really sees Clara, or if it's just her way of keeping her mother close. Maybe both can be true. There's something else, Grant says quietly. We found another diary, hidden in one of Evan's old properties. It belonged to his first wife. My hands tighten around the coffee mug. What did it say? That's just it, the last entry. He hesitates. She wrote about her daughter. A little girl who could see things others couldn't. Who disappeared the same night her mother died. A chill runs through me despite the warm spring air. You think? I think some questions are better left unanswered. He looks toward Ivy, who's arranging flowers in the kitchen window. Some gifts, too. Later that evening, as I tuck Ivy into bed, she grabs my hand. Grandma, Mommy wants you to know something. What's that, sweetheart? She says it's okay to be happy again. That's why she sent you the dreams about the garden. I freeze. I've never told anyone about those dreams, about Clara showing me where to plant each flower, how to make beauty grow from darkness. She also says, Ivy yawns, her eyes drifting closed. She says the other little girl is happy too, with her own mommy, in their own garden. I sit there long after she falls asleep, watching shadows dance across the wall. Tomorrow, we'll plant more flowers. The foundation will help more women. Life will go on, growing new patterns over old scars. But tonight, I swear I catch a glimpse of Clara in the moonlight, tending to her flowers. She looks up and smiles, not the careful smile she wore in her final years, but the real one, bright and free. Beside her, a small figure dances among the roses, her laughter echoing like wind chimes. I don't tell Grant about what Ivy said. Some truths belong to the garden, to the quiet spaces between justice and mercy, between vengeance and healing. Clara understood that in the end. So did her daughter, who sees what we can't or won't. The sunflowers will bloom soon, turning their faces toward the light. And in their shadows, other flowers grow wild and free, tended by hands we cannot see but know are there. Sometimes justice comes from courtrooms and confessions. Sometimes it grows in gardens, planted by children who speak to ghosts, tended by mothers who learn to listen. And sometimes, if you're very quiet, you can hear them all dancing among the roses.